back to the GOAT Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Neander, back with you for another episode. Thanks for joining us. So we got another really great episode for you today. We've been going over the divisional previews for the upcoming NFL 2020 season, and we've already gotten the AFC West episode done, and it's already ready to go. So go onto YouTube and check that division out if you're curious about the teams in the AFC West. But today, we're going to be going over the AFC East teams. Very interesting division. There's a lot going on there. To go over the AFC East, we're going to be bringing in one of my old co-workers, a friend of mine, a golf partner, and a league mate, Blake Hall. He's down in Florida. He's going to help us out with that. So without wasting any more time, we're going to go ahead with the AFC East preview. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome in Blake Hall. Blake, thanks for joining us. How's it going, man?
What's up, everybody? I'm good, man. How are you? Great to be on the show.
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks a lot. Joining us from sunny Florida. I'm sure plenty of people are jealous. Back out at the beach, I assume.
Oh yeah, beach has been open. They were never really closed. People find a way to get on the beach.
Yeah, I lived in South Florida for my high school years, and I'm sure I would have been out there, no doubt. So, all right, everybody knows what we're doing here. We're going over division-by-division breakdowns and projections going to the 2020 season. And you drew the AFC and NFC East, and we're going to start in the AFC here. So, we were talking about it before the show. Not a glamorous division by any means, not in real life and not in fantasy football either. But there are some interesting storylines. There are some valuable, assets and keys to be had here in this division. Just got to know when and where to find them and play them smart. There's not a lot of superstars here, but a lot of role players that can really make a difference. So, you ready to roll?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. We're going to start with New England, of course. They won the division again. Let's all pray it's the last freaking time for a while. I know we were talking about that too. We're all excited. Hopefully that streak's going to end here. But 12-4, 7th in points per game, 8th in the passing game. 18th in the rushing game. So, there was some fantasy value for New England, players last year. And, the big question is how much of that goes away with the departure of Tom Brady. The assumption now is at this point in free agency that Jarrett Stidham is indeed going to be the quarterback week one and probably for the majority of the season for the New England Patriots. So, let's just start there. Jarrett Stidham, he's not going to be drafted by anybody, right?
I can't imagine. I mean, that's got to be a last pick kind of guy. Take a chance.
Yeah, even in 2 QB leagues, you got to assume, just the unknown is too big there. And for me, it starts there. If you can't think of the quarterback as a top 20 kind of a guy, it's hard to imagine there being a lot of assets in fantasy to go with. But let's look at the guys that have been valuable in the past. James White been the most valuable running back in the last few years. He was number 22 last year. The bulk of that on the back of his receiving game, which has been his MO. 72 receptions, 645 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Without Tom Brady, does James White have any value? Is he anybody on your board?
I mean, I can't imagine he'd be a top, 3 or 4 running back for me anyway. I mean, I might take him on the back end if he's still there. I can't see his upside being very high with, the lack of the unknown of his receptions, I mean, he's not a power runner. That's not going to happen. If that's the case, then, pick up Sony Michel.
Yeah, and Sony went for 3.7 yards per carry last year, so not, a lot of confidence there. And that's with a pretty decent passing attack, and you have to respect Tom Brady. You don't have to respect Jarrett Stidham. You can put as many people in the box as you want.
Sure.
Michel was number 28 last year, 247 carries and a very inefficient 912 yards. He did get in the end zone 7 times, but again, with that kind of defense and Tom Brady, that's still no huge accomplishment. Michel has to fall further than that for me. He probably has more value than White because he'll get most of the carries, and White, we don't know what he'll get, but there's no value there for me. I'm not looking at him either. Sony Michel, any interest?
No, I agree completely. I mean, I would take Sony Michel over James White all day, but he's just not showing what I thought he would. Being a power runner like that coming out of Georgia, I thought he'd make a better impact in the league. But, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Georgia has been pumping out those running backs, those high quality running backs. We'll see if Swift follows, in that vein or if he falls. But let's talk about the receiving core. I want to pass this over to you here. They do have a decent amount of targets vacated by the receivers. Philip Dorsett is gone, 54 targets. Josh Gordon was gone halfway through the season, but that's still 36 targets. So about 90 targets there combined. They didn't bring any receivers in really in the free agency pool that are dangerous. They didn't draft anybody. So you're looking at Julian Edelman, N'Keal Harry, Mohamed Sanu, Jacoby Myers. Is that the order you have them in? And do you think outside of Edelman, anybody's on your draft board? Does Harry kind of jump up there?
I can't. I wouldn't touch anybody. I mean, Edelman just because he's been so productive. But, I mean, I can't imagine taking Keanu Neal. I mean, Jacoby Myers is – I think I saw he's been in the league like 5 or 6 years, and he's just a couple 100 yards receiving a year kind of guy, just kind of gets you through. I don't know. I mean, I would if you're gonna choose, take a shot in the dark, maybe Sanu, But even still, it's like you've got an unknown with Stidham. So what are you gonna do?
Drafted him, but I think he was like a second rounder maybe when they drafted him last year, and didn't get a ton of opportunity. Only 24 targets, but with those 90 or so targets on the loose there, and Edelman had 153 targets, so you can't imagine that going up, right? I mean, more that's going down. So I think you can add another 25, 30 targets into that pool of vacated targets, and now you're well over 100. And I see N'Keal Harry going from 24 targets into that 60 to 70 target range. And, I think he might be sneakily streamable as the season rolls on.
Yeah.
I don't want to draft him, but I can see that happening. Edelman finishes number 10 last year, had 100 receptions, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. How far down? He's still the number one option, for a decent team with a great coach and a good defense. So how far down does Edelman, legitimately go in your rankings?
I mean, I don't think I would take him as top 2 or 3 receiver on my team.
So if you have a stud number one wide receiver, you don't feel good with Julian Edelman as number 2?
I mean, it's just such a question mark. You just don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Stidham could come out like, a rocket and play well, or he could be a big bust, and your whole team's done.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think Edelman would have to fall, into the 6th, 7th, 8th kind of round before I would even start looking at him. And I'd probably have to already have 3 receivers, like you said. I mean, I really would probably have to. So, it doesn't take a lot to fall there, Jarrett Stidham. So, and there's no tight ends. It's not a team you look to tight end. Ben Watson's gone. He was already bad last year. Now it's Matt LaCosse and other no-name guys. It's going to be bad. So, outside of fantasy, give me the over/under on New England's win total this year before we move on.
I got to go 6.
Yeah.
And I honestly, man, I don't even know if they're going to get 6. Only reason I'm giving them 6 is because of Belichick.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I haven't been a big New England hater this whole time. Even though I'm kind of a Buffalo guy, I'm one of those like, hey, I love to watch greatness and dynasties, and even to a certain extent, I can be okay with dominance, But now I'm like, now I feel like the blood's in the water. Gronk and Brady are in Tampa. Buffalo's on the move. Like, now I feel it, It's like for the first year in a while. So I'm looking forward to it. I think New England's going to be a trap for people that are drafting Patriots. Stidham, I really think that Belichick is waiting, and he's going to trade up and get Trevor Lawrence next year. He has to do, but we'll see.
I can see that happening.
Yeah. The next guy to take me the next 10, plus years. So
I mean, if anybody could,
yeah. All right, let's move to Buffalo here. They were finally back in the playoffs last year, which was great. Just so close to beating Houston and kind of gave it up on the road there. They were 10-6. 23rd in points per game. They weren't great at anything. They were 8th in the rushing attack. So pretty solid rushing attack. They were just dogged in their, consistency running the ball, no matter the time of the game. Didn't matter the score. Didn't matter, what quarter it was. They were running the ball, and passing as they needed to. I had high hopes for some of these guys, and then through the free agent market and through the draft, they really kind of dashed a lot of the hopes I had for some of these players here. So let's start with Josh Allen, number 6 quarterback on the year. Number 6, super impressive. A lot of that on the back of his rushing, 500 yards and 9 touchdowns on the ground. That's a lot of points, baby. I mean, 50 points from, the yards, another 50-something from the touchdown. That's 100 points, on the ground.
Right.
Pretty inaccurate, 59%, completion percentage, 20 touchdowns in the air, 9 interceptions. I like the 9 interceptions for a young guy that has a big arm and is not very accurate. I think that's promising that he only had 9 interceptions. So the question is, you're getting late in the draft. You don't draft one of the top quarterbacks, right? You forego the top couple of guys, and then you forego the second tier. You let Rodgers and Watson go, and whoever else is in that 5 to 6, 7, kind of tier. Now it's the 10th round. It's the 12th round. All the people that kind of punted quarterback, the last 4 or 5 people, 3, 4 people are picking quarterbacks. And you're looking at Kirk Cousins, and you're looking at Carson Wentz. Maybe you're, for whatever reason, looking at Jared Goff. There's people you're looking at. Is Josh Allen near the top of that list? Do you feel good about leaving the draft with Josh Allen, or do you feel like you screwed the pooch there?
No, and for the record, that's probably me waiting to pick a quarterback. I would take Josh Allen all day. I mean, I like his upside. I just think he's got a lot of targets, which help him out a lot. I mean, like we were talking, I mean, their receivers. I mean, really, on paper, the squad is pretty solid as far as targets go. I mean, you got Singletary, who's been pretty solid, and you mentioned he can run the ball too, which I didn't realize he had 500 yards rushing. That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
For a big guy like him.
And that's 100 carries, 109 carries, so basically 5 yards of carries. Pretty good clip there. So for me, Allen is the biggest beneficiary of their off season, because we'll look at the rest of the moves, but I think it just limits everybody else's ceiling. But for Allen, the addition of the weapons, I think, helps. So into the backfield, you mentioned Singletary, the number 31 running back in the league last year, but only played 12 games. So, you have to, keep that in mind. And was a rookie, just kind of getting started. They had the old man Gore to start the season. So you knew Gore was going to get the bulk in the beginning, while Singletary, kind of got his legs under him.
Yeah.
Still wound up with a really good year, near the top of the pack in yards per carry for Singletary. 151 carries, 775, only 2 touchdowns. And that's a big thing with the 9 touchdowns for Josh Allen on the ground. Singletary only had 2. And, that also shows you a limit to his ceiling. Also didn't catch the ball that much, 29 of 41, 194 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I was all set to elevate Singletary to a mid-end running back 2 until they drafted Zach Moss in the 3rd round, got him out of Utah, and he has that build of a bigger, bruising back, goal line back that can get the tough yards. And for me, that clipped Singletary's ceiling right away for me. I know he's a rookie, but I don't know if you know anything about Zach Moss, but what were you thinking about Singletary before, and kind of what are you thinking now?
I mean, I remember a couple of years ago you talking about him before the season, Singletary being a big guy, big player, and he has been. But man, you're right, Zach Moss. I mean, the guy had 3,000-yard seasons, in college. That screams durability. He got hurt, but I mean, he seems like he's come off it pretty well. If that guy can stay healthy, I think he can be like one of those career type of guys that the one in a few that you get that can maybe play 4 or 5 seasons and be a consistent running back.
Yeah, and I can totally see, from the 5-yard line or in, having both him and Singletary in with Allen, and you have no idea who's going to get the ball.
Yeah.
At that point. So I can see that. So I'm still high on Singletary. I like it. I like a team that it might be the best defense in the league, if not their top 5 defense. And they want ball, and they want to play smart ball. So I still like Singletary. If Singletary's your number 2 running back coming out of the draft, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I wouldn't be very happy about it if it was me, just me. But I mean, you play with what you got. You can always stream along the way.
All right, yeah, I mean, no, that's true. I mean, Singletary, I think he's, at the end of the day, he's going to be the number one for sure.
Yeah, he's gonna be the guy.
Yeah, so there's always value in that, and on a decent team, I think it's hard not to be a top 20, kind of guy if you stay healthy and you have the number one role on a defensive run-minded team.
Right.
So let's move out to the wide receivers because kind of the same thing here. So you had two receivers that had good, underrated seasons last year. John Brown, the number 20 wide receiver. Cole Beasley, the number 34 wide receiver. Both played 15 games. Now that, I think a lot of people thought John Brown would be the deep threat with Beasley just being the underneath guy. And John Brown saw a lot more targets than people thought, 115 targets, caught 72 balls, 6 touchdowns, 1,000 yards. Beasley, almost the same targets, 106, caught 67 balls, shorter yardage, which you expect, 778, and another 6 touchdowns, even on the touchdowns. So, going into the offseason, you're thinking, all right, I like these guys. They're going to grow. Allen's growing. The team's getting better. They play great defense. And boom, they trade for Stephon Diggs. Now, as a Bills guy, right, I'm like, boom, I love it. Big move, splashy move. I don't love the Munchkin Club that they got going on there. I mean, there's not a guy above 5'9" on that freaking receiver core. Giant, inaccurate quarterback, So I would look for an AJ Green, right? I was looking for one of those big body, lanky,
Oh yeah,
key kind of guys as a number one. I'll take Stephon Diggs all day long, but I was looking for somebody bigger. They actually did do that in the draft. They drafted a couple of bigger guys, but they're not going to be there this year. We'll see what happens with them. For this year, it's Diggs, Brown, and Beasley. So now you have a relatively inaccurate quarterback with a very strong defense and a team that wants to run the ball. Are any of these guys, wide receiver twos? Do you think Diggs can be a wide receiver two in this offense with Brown and Beasley?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I could see them all, in some role getting there. I mean, I could see Diggs being a solid number 2 guy. But then, Beasley's kind of, he's kind of like a tight end that plays the slot. He's like the safety blanket. And then John Brown's been there too. It's all about reliability. It's going to be weird because I think you're right. I don't know if you would want to take anybody because they're going to be sharing targets and lots of it. I mean, you got to have enough to go around.
Yeah, and it's hard to, because for me, Beasley, I think his targets are the safest because Brown now gets bounced to the other side of Diggs.
Right.
And Beasley maintains a lot of his underneath, targets, where a good amount of the outside targets that went to Brown will now go to Diggs. Some of the other guys that, aren't going to really be in the mix anymore, Isaiah McKenzie, Duke Williams, their targets will go to Diggs also.
Mm-hmm.
I think Diggs stays in there as a low-end wide receiver 2 in the number 20, to 22 kind of range. But I'm out on Brown and Beasley right now. I'm in on Buffalo winning this division. But for most purposes, I am out on this team for fantasy.
You wouldn't touch anybody on the team?
No, I mean, I would totally take Stephon Diggs depending on ADP, right? If Diggs is my number 2 receiver and I got like 2 stud running backs and a good wide receiver, he's my number 2 wide receiver, my 4th best player on my team, I might look at that.
Right.
But I don't know. Not right now. I just don't like the way this team is set up and what they want to do. They want to win scoring 24 points, not 34.
Yeah, this whole division, man, it's a crapshoot. I really feel like it. Like I was looking at all 4 teams, and I'm just like, good Lord, there's nobody that is really worth a shit.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to come down to how they play each other. They play each other twice, right? And I mean, if those games wind up being big scoring games for whatever reasons, then there's more viability there. But, with Buffalo and New England, I think you have 2 top 5 defenses.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks for everybody else. Got to play them twice a year. So if you're the other 2 teams, that's a third of your or a fourth of your season.
Mm-hmm.
Top 5 defenses. So yeah, I don't like that either. But we'll see the rest of their. I think the AFC East has one of the harder division schedule slates that there are. We don't know the full schedule yet, right? But we know years ahead what division they're going to play, et cetera. Things like that. I think the AFC West. Play, KC, and I think they play the NFC West. They're going to play Seattle and San Fran. So, I mean, it's going to be tough sledding for the AFC East this year, I think, for sure. I don't like it at all. Just to bring up tight end before we move on, Dawson Knox, he's got moxie. I like him. He's one of those guys you want to like, and your bias makes you think he's going to be better. But, he can't be anything more than just a, streamable guy as the season goes on, right?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, he's, 388 and 2 touchdowns? Yeah, I wouldn't touch that.
Point is, talk me off the ledge. I just want to like him a lot more.
Right. Tyler Eifert is like that with me in Cincinnati. Like, I always want to take Tyler Eifert, and it just, God, it's always such a fucking backfire.
Listen, now he's in Jacksonville, and now I want him in Jacksonville. And that's
yeah.
Because, Minshew, I don't know what makes me feel like it's a fit. But he was healthy last year. He played all 16 games. And that was the biggest question for Eifert was, can he be healthy?
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll go over that division another day. I don't want to but tight end was the bane of my existence last year. I punted tight end in every division. Found random people and streamed almost every week, and it was it was anxiety ridden. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I do that sometimes.
Playing Gerald Everett's and shit. Yeah, it was for a while there. O.J. Howard's hoping. How many more years am I going to pray O.J. Howard has a great game?
Yeah, right. Now, I mean, God, now draft him now.
Yeah. Better be the 16th round. All right. Let's roll over. Let's go to the third team, the New York Jets. Jets. Jets are, also kind of interesting. This is the year Darnold's got to make the leap, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if Darnold can't in the third year make that jump forward, they got to start thinking about, is he the guy? So he played 13 games last year. Really, he played 12. He had the mono, whatever happened, he was out. And really, whatever you want to say about the fact that he had mono, whatever, what you know about that disease is that once you come back, you're still not back for like a while, right? It takes you a long time to really get full energy back and, full everything. So, I'll give him a little bit of benefit there. Not much. I'll give him a little bit there, right? Team was 7-9, next to last in points, 29th in passing yards, next to last in rushing yards. That's, right? Not much else to say about that. So, they did lose some big pieces, though. They got rid of Robbie Anderson. Let him go to Carolina. Demaryius Thomas, they let go. Bilal Powell, finally gone. So, not that he did much last year, but he's gone. One of those guys you had to worry about every year. Oh, is he going to be the pass catching back, in New York? No, he's not going to be anymore. So that's a lot of targets. Robbie Anderson, 6 targets? And Demaryius Thomas, 58. 154 targets in the wide receiver position that have been vacated. That's a ton. One of the highest in the league, if not the highest. So who's going to catch those? Well, still on the team, Jameson Crowder was the number 31 wide receiver last year, 78 receptions.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty high, 122 targets, 833 yards, 6 touchdowns. So, yeah, the yardage reflects the position he played. Lots of targets, but very low air yardage, right? 2, 3, 5 yards down the field. Hopefully make a play, usually not. And then we move on from there. So, he's there. Then you have Quincy Enunwa. Will he come back ever? Will he be a part ever? I don't think so at this point. That's why they brought other guys in. So who did they bring in? Rashad Perryman from Tampa Bay. Perryman was the number 48 receiver on the year last year, but let's be honest, that's basically in the last 6 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
Right? So he jumped up from number 8,000 to number 48 in the last 6 weeks of the year. Evans was hurt a little bit. Godwin missed a couple of weeks. And Perryman blew up. He was having 150-yard games, 2 touchdown games. I mean, he was doing great. But we all know that, Tampa Bay was throwing the ball at ridiculous rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they turned the ball over 4 times in the first half. It'd be down 3 touchdowns, and then, just chucking the ball, get back in the game. But when you look at it, Perryman is there. He's got talent. They draft Denzel Mims, one of the bigger steals of the draft. A lot of people thought. Second round, they get Mims in. A lot of people thought he was a top 3, top 4 wide receiver prospect in one of the deepest wide receiver classes that we've seen in a long time.
Yep.
So, who's going to be number one? Who's going to be number two? Who's going to be number three? That's the biggest question in New York, for the wide receivers. Do you think that Rashad Perryman all of a sudden becomes the number one? Or is Crowder, definitely going to lead the way in targets?
I think they both probably, I'd say their upside is both going to go pretty high. Perryman, I think, will eventually take over. But, man, I don't know. The more I read about Mims, the more I think he's going to be an impact player right out the gate. He's going to be like, what's the kid in Atlanta?
Calvin Ridley?
Yeah. I think he's going to come on strong pretty early. But it just depends on who's healthy. I think Perryman will probably be the number one overall. I would probably take him over Crowder. But, Crowder does know the offense too. So it's like you're rolling the dice either way.
And there are some of those games where Darnold was targeting Crowder, 13, 17.
Yeah.
Like absurd level targets for some of those games. And those are week winners, right? You get 13, 14 catches, for 120 yards.
Yeah. I wish they'd give, Sam Darnold some better targets because, he's got a big arm. The kid can definitely sling it.
So that's the Mims thing. And that's what I was talking about with Buffalo wanting a bigger target because now the Jets, Mims, I think this is a guy where you can just throw and either he gets under it and catches it or he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And no harm done. It's not like he's got to fight for the ball, whatever. Launch it, let him try to win the play and move from there. I think he's that kind of player. And Darnold, just like Allen, the bigger kid, young, not the most accurate, with a big arm. And I don't see why you don't have more 6'3" targets out there to catch the ball. So, I think he did a good job with Mims. I think he might wind up being, not this year for fantasy, but for the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Be a really great move for them, going forward if Darnold can make that progression this year. So, Sam Darnold, number 27, 13 games. Is he any more than just a streamable guy right now to you? Do you think he makes that jump?
No, I'd stream him all day. I can't see him picking him up. He's just so inaccurate. Like the mono thing. He's obviously not, I don't know if he's committed. It's, brings up issues all over the place.
He doesn't add anything on the ground either. He doesn't add anything there. He had 2 touchdowns, but that's just,
Yeah.
just happens near the goal line. He doesn't add any yardage or any threat that way. Talk about Lev Bell real quick. So, he's number 17. We did talk about him a little bit, So, Lev Bell, he's your number 2 running back coming out of the draft. You feel great or you feel very worried?
If I've got a stud number 1 and he's my number 2, I'm not going to be that mad about it. He's going to get, like we were talking about, he's going to get the carries. They have nobody else.
Let's say you go stud receiver 1 and 2. That's just how your board falls. Let's say you're like number 6 or 7, in the draft. And then you go, you go Tyreek Hill or you go DeAndre Hopkins. And then you come back and you go another stud receiver because that's how it falls. I
think you got to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. His upside is just too good right now. The potential is there.
Like I said, I feel like Adam Gase wants to just, get every penny that
what? He's owed like $13 million this year or something nuts. That's crazy, man. Earn it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. Listen, I don't get it. I'm on the other side of the whole. Oh well, you want to extend the life of the running back. I don't get that at all because of the way contracts work. I've been a big person that says we got to change the way running back contracts work, specifically, not just NFL players, and that's a different show. But if I have a running back, no matter what I've been paying him, whether he's cheap or whether I paid him, if he's the most talented running back I have, he's touching the ball 300 times between running and catching the ball.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, I don't know what else you're doing here. We all know running backs have a 6-year shelf life at most.
Yeah.
I run them and I just go crazy with them. So
give him a pitch count. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bell, between receptions and carries had over 300 last year. I expect the same this year. And no way he only scores 4 touchdowns if he touches the ball another 300 times.
Yeah.
So I like Bell. Rest of the guys, I'm not sure about. Yeah. Receivers there, I don't know. Rashad Perryman is a guy I take a flyer on, but he's got to be my 5th or 6th receiver. Same with Crowder. Everyone else is off my radar.
Yeah, me too. I can't imagine anybody that I would take that I would look for. I mean, their tight end game is a joke as well.
Yeah, Griffin scored some touchdowns, but if it's all touchdown dependent, you can do anybody at that point. Kyle Rudolph and other guys that are touchdown dependent that are available. All right, let's move on to the last team in the AFC East, Miami. Now, I don't know what it is about this freaking team. I've never been a Dolphins guy, so it's not like I have any kind of a connection to the Dolphins. I am extremely intrigued about the weapons for fantasy football this year. So, let's break it down a little bit here. They drafted Tua. We all know that. They have Ryan Fitzpatrick. Josh Rosen is number 3, assumedly now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see Tua playing any games this year, starting any games this year?
I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick would have to tank pretty hard. I mean, he'd have to put up a goose egg for the first 3 or 4 or 5 games. I mean, I don't think Fitzpatrick's been a terrible quarterback. I mean, he's not afraid to throw the ball. He's got heart. He definitely, plays the game, and he knows the system. I mean, hell, he's played for how many teams?
Yeah, the Euchre of football.
Yeah, right. I mean, but but he could, if Tua can learn from him and it plays out the right way, then that could be huge for Tua in the future.
Yeah,
I think Rosen's done.
Yeah, I think Rosen's done. He'll get a chance as a backup. He'll get signed. He'll get put on some Chiefs next year, and it's all about an injury. There'll be an injury. He'll get a chance, and either he'll make lightning happen with those 3, 4, 5, whatever starts he gets, or he'll fade forever into, purity. But let's just assume he's the number 3 and he's out of the picture. And for me, I want to assume that Tua is not going to see the field this year. That's my prediction. And that's my hope for my fantasy game. So let's talk about Fitzpatrick. 62% completion, not bad, not great, for a gunslinger per se. Number 16 quarterback on the year. And, he shared a little bit with Rosen early. So you had that. 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Not that bad for, again, a guy with that reputation.
Yeah.
4 rushing touchdowns, so adds a little bit of value there. He's not afraid to, scamper a little bit. So you get that. Fitz is nothing but a week-to-week streamer. No one's drafting him. We know that. It's going to be about, if he plays New England, he's going to have 3.5 points.
Yeah.
If he plays Cincinnati, he might have 36 points. He's that kind of guy. He beats up the bad defenses, kind of chokes up against the really good defenses.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason to think that's going to change. But so they got rid of their whole dysfunctional running back situation. Part of it because of them, part of it because of who they had. Kenyon Drake, we see, is not dysfunctional because he's rising in my rankings very, 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 very steeply, which we'll get to that. But, Mark Walton, Kalen Ballage, Patrick Laird, all these guys got to go. I was kind of surprised they didn't draft a running back, but, they didn't. That's fine. But they did get Jordan Howard and Matt Breida from the free agent pool. So to pay both these guys pretty cheap, I love the way they got a 1-2 combo. Breida is the super fast, playmaker and play breaker. And Jordan Howard is the steady Eddie, between the tackles runner that's not flashy, but, get the job done and get your 4.5 yards per carry. So overall, I don't think Howard or Breida are viable options to start the season. But do you think you have a clear idea on who's number 1 or 2 or 1A or 1B or?
Man, I don't, just because their styles are so different. I mean, if they were, similar, I could maybe pick one. But Breida's they said he got up to like 22 miles on a catch last year. I mean, that's insane. But, then you got Jordan Howard just going to punish you up the middle and then, can get you 4 or 5 probably consistent yards. I mean, but that's the good thing about it, and that's why this team is going to be really weird. Because now that they have, if this running game pans out, then That's going to open up the receiving game, and then it's going to look, like football's supposed to look like in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I love this team going, down the road 2 years because of all the young talent. But I mean, we're still talking about, what's going to happen this year, what can happen this year. And I think that if the Dolphins were smart, and I'm one of those guys, just like with Drake, you put a guy out there that's proven that he's going to make plays and break plays, you get the ball in his hands.
Yep.
Tariq Cohen, Matt Breida, I mean, these guys, Kenyon Drake, that make plays happen, they got to touch the ball 13, 14, 15 plus times, and half of them are going to go for nothing, and some will go for some yardage, but 2 might go for 7.
Yep.
And that's what you're looking for with those kinds of guys. And Breida's that kind of guy. And by the way, it seems like he's a cyborg. He has like 8 injuries every week. He's out pregame. They're like, oh, he's going to test it. And then he runs the ball 18 times, for 132 yards.
Right.
It happened like 3 times last year. I mean, it really was pretty ridiculous. I think that's a great pickup, though, for that team. It's very underrated. I don't know if they're super draftable unless the team comes out and says, hey, one of them is the absolute number 1. Maybe you look at it. But I can't see that. But it does make their team better, and it opens up the play action. And the pass catchers are where the interest happens for Miami. So let's go through the pass catchers here. Devontae Parker, welcome to your all-pro status, man. We've been waiting for you. Listen, people have been waiting for the breakout for years. He's played with a lot of different quarterbacks. There were some questions about, work ethic and, desire and issues. There was stuff going on with his agent and the team, and was he going to play? Either way, he showed up in a big way last year. The number 7 wide receiver on the year. And he did that on only 72 receptions. That's not a lot of receptions, but, to make to the top 7, a lot of those guys are in the 90 plus. And 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. Big numbers. Big numbers. So before we project Parker out, let's go past him. We got Preston Williams. I was very impressed with Preston Williams last year as a rookie. Only played 8 games, had a pretty bad injury, but all reports say he looks like he's good to go for the season. In 8 games, 32 catches, 430 yards, 3 touchdowns. This is a pretty solid 1-2 punch if they're healthy. And I see no reason to think that Devontae Parker's not a wide receiver 2. And Preston Williams is a wide receiver 3-ish, right on that border of wide receiver 3 flex kind of area. So am I crazy? Or, are you willing to have Dolphins on your team this year?
No, I'd take Devontae Parker all day. I think, he's always been that receiver. It's like you were saying, he doesn't have as many catches, but his average is huge. He's led the league, I think, quite a bit in receive yard average or average per catch. And I mean, he's capable of doing it, especially if the running game opens up, they're going to look for him a lot. As far as Preston Williams, I mean, he could definitely be the guy. I mean, why not? Why not him?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know if you watched any of Preston Williams last year, but he's got this crazy mix of size and speed. He's like right there. He's like 6'2", maybe, where he's big and he's broad-shouldered, but he's with long range. I loved everything about Preston Williams last year. And going forward, again, looking, if I'm in Dynasty, those kinds of drafts, startup dynasties, that's a super sneaky guy that in 2-3 years when Tua develops might be a wide receiver 1 in this league. So
yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah, I'm looking at Preston Williams. He's on my radar as my 5th, wide receiver in the draft. If I can get him that low, he will absolutely be on a handful of my rosters after the draft this year.
What about any of the other guys? You see any of them coming up doing anything?
Not receivers, no. Allen Hurns, Albert Wilson, Jakeem Grant, they'll all have 1 good game out of the season, maybe 2. But that'll be the bulk of their production, and they won't be able to be, counted on for the other game. You're not going to want to play them to chase the points you're not going to play them when they score, and then you're going to chase them, and you're not going to get them. Right? But Mike Gesicki is absolutely on my radar tight end. So tight end number 11 last year, 51 catches, 570 yards, and 5 TDs. He's just, he's at that year. I think he's in the third year where, tight ends, that's when they make that big jump. For whatever reason, that position is that third and fourth season where it's finding out, just learning the right mix of blocking and, coverage, and when you drop into, going out for the routes, and when you got to stay in to, pass protect. And there's just something about that year mark. And I think Gesicki is ready to become, a steady top 10. That being said, there's no way he breaks into that top 5 of those, that number 1 and number 2 tier. He's not there. But if I'm in that, 9th, 10th round, I still haven't had a tight end, and there's like 7 tight ends off the board, and he's right in that range with that 8 to 12, he's definitely going to be, a very hard person to pass up in that level, the low end tight end ones for me.
So, yeah.
But again, I like Miami this year. I know, it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy to me. I don't love them as a team. I love their talent going forward, but just their mix of skill position players, I think work well for fantasy this year, and I think there's value there.
Yeah, I think they have one of the biggest upsides probably in the division as far as, positive ways. I like this tight end though, man. I didn't do a lot of research on him. He's 6'6", 250. I mean, that's Gronk, Put another 20 pounds on him.
I mean, if I remember correctly, he's maybe a first or second round draft pick. So it's not like he's some late draft pick. There was definitely a lot of hype.
Played at Penn State, so I mean, he's probably used to that hard nosed kind of ball.
Yeah, I really like Gesicki. I think he's got he's a little George Kittle light. I think.
Yeah.
I can see that playmaking ability. He's strong. He can just throw defenders off of him when he gets a little head of steam. I like the way he looks. So, yeah, again, it's an interesting division. By no means is it the most glamorous or the most dynamic division for fantasy, but that's usually not where fantasy's won. We all know that. It's not the first round. It's, the 7th round, the 11th round, the 4th round streamer, or the week 4 streamer and the week 11 streamer. That's where you make it. And this team is chock full of those guys that aren't going to get drafted, or if they are drafted, they'll be dropped early to make room for injuries and bye weeks. And they're going to be there second half of the season. And, if Fitzpatrick's still out there, they're all going to be all over my radar.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would take, I would take Fitzpatrick. I mean, it's the uncertainty of the division is scary, I would say, but out of all of them, Miami's got the biggest upside.
All right, so outside of fantasy, real quick before we wrap up, who wins the AFC East, and what order do you see the AFC East finishing in this year?
Oh God, I got Buffalo Bills. I think they're going to take it. I mean, I can't see them not. I see the Patriots on the fucking bottom, which that makes me happy.
On the bottom of the AFC East.
Yep, I'm going to give them the bottom. I'm going to take Miami number 2, and I'm going to take the Jets number 3.
All right. And it goes without saying that there's no other playoff team here but the team that wins the division, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
There's no wild card team in this division.
No, I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
Unless Hoyer takes over for New England and makes a run at something crazy.
Yeah, has a late career resurgence.
Yeah, kind of like Foles.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Well, he's going to take over for Trubisky pretty quick, so we'll see how that goes out.
I know this is going to be a good year. I mean, all the people, they've all gone different places, and it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to have football. I think just because of the demand, and I think football is the least dependent on a live crowd. Yeah. I don't think you have to have anybody in the stands, and football doesn't really hurt, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'd watch it. I mean, I just want some sports right now.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, the fans are the furthest away from the game in that sport, right? I mean, they're far away. Many more people watch it on TV or prefer to watch it on TV, and many more people are only interested because of the outcome, whether it's betting, fantasy football, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So people are going to want football, and it's not about going there like, oh, let's take the grandkiddies to the baseball game and we'll get a program. No, it's like we just want football. We want the football season to happen.
Absolutely.
So I think it's going to happen. There's not going to be any international games, and we go off, and we're going to get a great season, man.
Yeah, it's going to be great. One of my owners is from up north. He's a New England fan. And, of course, they lived down here in Florida for like 30 years. So now he's hating on Brady left and right. He's like, I don't even want a season. Fucking bum.
How can you be so ungrateful?
I know.
Drew Bledsoe would give this guy one ring ever.
Right?
No. You think Bill Belichick without Tom Brady would have won a ring? I say no. That's why I love this movie.
Yeah.
I think Belichick was the Belichick that was with Cleveland, and he got just the perfect storm, and it just all happened perfectly.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that Tom Brady wins another ring, not Bill Belichick.
I agree. I think. I mean,
Belichick
looks good.
Brady's going to play 2. And I still think it's more likely that Brady wins another one and Belichick will never win another.
I mean, I think he's dangerous in Tampa. I mean, they've got some weapons. A lot of weapons.
Yeah. Well, that's coming up next week. So, hey, man, we're going to have you back to talk about the NFC East in the next couple of days / week. Try to get the rest of these divisional episodes knocked out. So, really appreciate you coming on and helping out with the AFC East. It was a blast. It was good chatting with you, catching up a little bit.
Always.
We're going to look forward to seeing you soon. Get ready for the NFC East. And you take care, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Thanks, man.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right. Thanks again, Blake, for helping us out with the AFC East. That's going to do it for us today. We've already got the AFC West and the East in the bag, ready to go. So next up is going to be the AFC North. We've got my buddy Mike McNaughton coming in to help us out with that. Going to be a really fun show. Have a great day. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. And we will talk to you soon. Have a good one.